And so that means the road is done for the Wolverines. They end the year with 28 victories. They won the Big Ten regular season title in a good year for the Big Ten. And oh, by the way, they won it by 3 games. Thanks in part to having the Conference Player of the Year, the Conference Coach of the Year as well. They make it to back-to-back Elite Eights. They've now got 59 combined wins the last 2 seasons. That is the most in a 2-year span in Michigan history. How will you remember this year for Michigan?
The fact that, in my mind, they exceeded any expectations that were out there coming into this season. I thought that the expectations, even with a healthy Mitch McGary, were exceedingly lofty for this team when you consider the fact they lost Trey Burke, the National Player of the Year from a season ago, and then another first-round draft pick in Tim Hardaway Jr., yet they're able to come out. They kind of struggled a little bit early as they were weaving their way through, and then when Mitch McGary, when they made the decision to shut him down, you kind of saw guys relax and say, hey, here's what my role is, and I think everyone filled their role. You take a look at what's coming back. A guy like Karis LeVert continues to improve and get better. Glenn Robinson III showed me something in this ball game. He rebounded.
He had a good tournament, too.
He did. He competed and really went after the basketball. But I thought that the team that Michigan put on the floor this year overachieved. It's hard to say that when you have the Conference Player of the Year, but I don't think anyone was expecting Nick Stauskas to have the year that he had. He showed glimpses last year. He had to kind of play a secondary role, but he just had a fantastic year in his sophomore season in Ann Arbor and was deserving of that Player of the Year accolade.
And I think the point you made about them overachieving is more appropriate when you consider a first-team preseason All-American goes down in Mitch McGary. Which brings us to the question of what's next. Does McGary come back? I think that's likely, considering it's tough to go into the draft after not playing a year due to injury. Stauskas is still only a sophomore, but gosh, it's hard to think NBA scouts aren't going to be breathing down his neck. Robinson is an athlete that keeps getting better. I mean, this could be a very different Michigan team next year.
It could, but another guy that we haven't talked about is Zach Irvin. He came in and shot the ball very, very well. So this is a team that is really predicated on three-point shooting and stretching you out and using spacing. That's not going to change whether Stauskas comes back or not. Inside, you're going to have Horford back. Jordan Morgan is a guy that a lot of people, in my opinion, do not give nearly enough credit for what he means to this program. Not just this year, but they don't get to the final game versus Louisville without a defensive play he made in taking a charge against Syracuse when he came in off the bench and really gave his body up. So he's a guy that, for basketball purists, will be remembered for what he gave Michigan, and it doesn't always just have to show up on the stat sheet.
And a lot of times Michigan loses great players, whether it's a Darius Morris, whether it's a Trey Burke. I mean, there's a long history in just the brief time John Beilein has been there, and somebody else steps up. So when they do lose these players, maybe Karis LeVert takes even another big step in the way that Nick Stauskas has this year. Maybe it is Irvin or any of the other freshmen then or the freshmen coming in this year that end up being impact players next year.